All right, so we got Matt Schreiber here, four-time All-Section, two-time section champ, two-time All-State, and I believe second on the career wins list
Yep.
with the great Coach Debellis here. So I'll just get right into it because we're going to try to, being that this is our first interview, we're going to try and make it nice and smooth. But so the first question, Mr. Schreiber, how'd you end up getting into youth wrestling?
It was like a whole combination of things. My dad wrestled, Aaron Wolk wrestled for Debellis in that youth program, so I thought I would give it a shot. I kind of really wasn't expecting much out of it, just like a way to work out and stuff. And then some reason, like I started doing it in third grade and didn't really do many tournaments. Just went to the practices and just wrestled. And it's a lot different than what I'm used to now because those practices were more geared toward just keeping interest in the sport and just having fun and just kind of learning the ropes of working out with body weight stuff and like pushing, pulling, hip pressure, and all that stuff. So I think that was pretty important.
Yeah, cool. I'm sure Coach Debellis has some cool stories with this, and your dad as well. But from what I heard, like when you were a youth wrestler, because I knew you a little bit, but I was very much involved in high school at that time. I really wasn't involved with youth. That was all Coach Debellis, really. I heard that you took a couple beatings back then. What kept you interested in not quitting and kind of staying with it and seeing it through?
Yeah, I think my youth career was like maybe 3 in 100 and something. It was pretty bad, but I feel like just the friends that I made and I just had a lot of fun doing it. Even though I wasn't winning, I really didn't care that much at that early stage in my career. Like I was wrestling these crazy good kids. Like at that time, they were really good. One of the kids I wrestled, Greg D, who turned out to be who he is. But at that time, I wrestled him in the consolation bracket, like the first round of the consolation. So he wasn't anything special then either. So I felt like just learning the ropes was pretty big and just getting the match experience because youth really doesn't matter in the long run.
Yeah, a lot of the guys around you were placing in the States, and you were up there in Binghamton, I remember a couple times, wrestling in the United States. It's true. All those tournaments attract the best kids around, and then you get to modify it, and you were super successful.
Yep, modified. Kind of my 7th and 8th grade year was a big difference. I know because 7th grade year I lost, I think only once. I only had like 2 losses in my modified career. Obviously, it's modified, so it's nothing like high school, but it was definitely different than youth. Just going in more practices, better workouts. I felt like I was just getting like kind of like finally feeling like I belonged in this sport. So yeah, it was pretty sad. I still got a fair share of beatings at youth states and all those off-season stuff, but it was still pretty cool.
This is more for Coach Debellis, but you could answer this too, Matt. Coach Debellis always talks about how we'll see kids in the hallway or we'll see kids around after school that they wrestled for a little while and they didn't see it all the way through. And you, Jacob, Aaron, guys that are super successful for us, were youth guys and did see it through. And I've been involved with the youth program, but Coach Debellis, especially back then, ran it. It was always fun and always a good time, and the kids seemed to enjoy it. I think we got to find a way to get those guys to stay like you guys did, because obviously the results and the success is going to follow if we could get them just to kind of stick to it. So what do you think about that, Coach?
Well, like you said, I see the kids in the hallway constantly, and if we had those kids still in Harper, we would have been dominant all the way through. For the last 4 or 5 years, we would have had the best teams around. Because those kids, they're good kids, but they get involved in other sports, and this era of specializing in sports, it hurts us a little bit. But then, in order to be a Matthew, you need to specialize. I mean, you need to spend a lot of time crafting your skill as he has.
Yeah, I think a misconception, Matt, you could answer to this a little bit, but I think a misconception about wrestling is that, everybody knows Coach Debellis at school, and he's like a nice, fun guy and all that stuff. But I think everybody thinks wrestling is this hardcore, super tough, and it is, right? It takes a certain type of person to kind of be successful, like you, Jacob, and Aaron were. But at the same time, even going to youth all the way through high school, yeah, we want to win, right? But we are far more concerned about, your personal growth. Like, are you going to be your character? Are you going to hold yourself accountable? All those things. So this is not a knock at any other sport. All the other sports in Horace Greeley are great, but I think that we specifically are focused on that. I think if parents and some of the kids maybe understood that a little bit better, we would have a lot more guys come out for the team. I think if they saw like how you've changed and how Jacob changed, and Aaron changed, they would understand and get it. Do you think you changed a little bit? Knowing your parents are great parents, right? But do you think wrestling kind of helped you mature, maybe?
Totally. I feel like this time management always helps to learn about. When I was in high school, I was going through 2 different practices every day, pretty much the entire weekdays, and then we'd be waking up at 6 a.m. for tournaments, driving an hour, sometimes even 6 hours to Oswego to wrestle, and then you get back late Sunday night or late Saturday night, and you don't have much time to do homework, but you got to prioritize what's important for you. And I feel like that wrestling taught me that. And then just feel like mental toughness too, because I've had my fair share of injuries, but and I'm not used to sitting on the bench. Like in other sports, you could go the whole season and not play a game and you're used to it. But when you're used to competing every day, going to practice, working hard, it was definitely hard to get adjusted to it, but you do what you can do. I hurt my arm, but I was still taking shots with my right arm, or just doing stance of motion, doing body weight exercise like squats or stuff with my legs. So it's just, I feel like you can always do something to better yourself. And like, that's what I felt like wrestling taught me.
I thought one of the most interesting things in your career was 2 weeks prior to divisions, you and coach decided that you were going to take a week of no wrestling. How do you think that played into your run in an all-state in your senior year?
So my senior year, I think I think he called me. I was in the shower when he called me, and it was like late January after I wrestled a tough match. I mean, it was a bad match for me. I probably should have done better, but it was a close match. And he texted me saying like, "You're not wrestling next week. I've been wrestling for pretty much 5 months straight every day, with the exception of like Saturdays if we didn't have like a tournament, which was not frequent." So he said, "You're just gonna lift all day next week and just not even look at the mat, look at wrestling, just take like a mental break, because it's kind of stressful being in the room all the time, competing against the RJs of the world and wrestling high-level kids." But I feel like that was pretty big because I got to take my time, regroup, and then regroup for divisionals, wrestled the day before divisionals just to get some weight off. But as I was lifting, I knew I was getting stronger, even though it was in that 5-day span. And then divisionals came, and I think divisionals, sectionals, and states were the best matches I've ever wrestled. Divisionals, I really wrestled well. My endurance was up. I was moving people more than usual, and I felt like my attacks were better too.
Yeah, I really thought that was an interesting move. I didn't think it was a very traditional move for a varsity coach to tell his athlete, "Hey, listen, you're taking a week." But I think it was the right decision the whole way. And I was just impressed with coach and with you to make that decision to say, "Hey, we're gonna put the glass of water down for a minute, and we're gonna just take a break and regroup." And boy, I tell you, I thought your performance at States your senior year was heroic.
Yeah,
And I think that those guys that you wrestled in your junior, senior year, all of those guys were either in the state finals. The guys that you beat were in the state finals, or they placed very high in the state the years after you left. Well,
yeah, I think too, and coach, like I think this goes for you and Matt in the program. I think this is not a problem, right? We're young and we're developing, but I think it goes back to the idea of like buying into something, right? Like Matt was totally bought into us. And me and you, Coach Debellis, are bought into each other, right? So we trust what the other person's going to do if it's going to benefit the kid in the long run. So we kind of had faith on that. We trusted each other. We did it. Matt, same thing. Matt was totally bought in, because if he wasn't, then he would have maybe fought back. There was no fight, right? It was like, you're going to sit out for a week. It was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit out. And he believed in it, and he wrestled really well. I think to maybe snowball off this, I could think of my proud moments for you, and I think Coach Debellis could too. But what would be, you think, your most proud moment as a Greeley wrestler?
I feel like obviously the blood round my freshman or my junior year, the first time I was at States, it was kind of, that night was pretty stressful. It's kind of crazy. I was sleeping at my parents' hotel that night, and people were so loud outside, like I couldn't sleep because we found out that the next day someone was stabbed at the concert. But it was kind of just like dealing with the
I
whole
didn't know that.
because I didn't sleep really that night. I might have gotten 2 hours of sleep, but you gotta go when you gotta go. We woke up, I want to say 6 o'clock, got to the arena, worked out, cut some weight, and then I was like, I wrestled. That was 99, so I was probably, I think I was the second match, so I had to just stay focused, not worry about the lack of sleep I had, how much weight I was cutting, just get ready because I was still, butterflies were crazy during that match. And I wrestled the kid before, so I knew I was pretty confident, but I went in, nothing happened the first period, and then I rode him out and got back points the second period. So that was like the big turning point because then felt him broke. Because then I got almost one more takedown. Then I got another. Then we went out of bounds on that, and then I got a takedown and rode him out again and won 5-0, I think. So
I think that was on the same exact mat the next year, the same mat number,
in that,
the blood round, right? And I think you wrestled Nate Wade, or Wade, the kid was named.
Nate Wade. Yeah, that was
Junior year, right?
Yeah.
And then after you won, you went to shake the coach's hand and the dad's hand, and the dad wasn't looking, and you gave him a tussle. You tussled there.
Yeah, that was funny. That was so, oh my God, yeah. I totally forgot
I
about
think that kid did well the next year, though.
He got 6 last year.
Yeah, good for him. He's a good kid.
Not for us. I mean, he jumped a lot of weight classes too, I think. He got big.
26.
Yeah. But I was going to say there's plenty of moments that I go through your whole entire career where we were proud, right? Like placing your freshman year was great. The way you wrestled against Dennis and Garrett your sophomore year was great. Being all state your junior year and winning sectionals was great. To me, taking fourth your junior year was great. Coming in fifth your senior year was also really good. If you look at the bracket, like Coach Debellis said, the guys that were in that bracket, it was a stacked weight class. I think winning that blood round match was probably maybe more of a proud moment for me because, I was in your position, right? I was fourth my junior year as well, and I didn't place my senior year. I had a bad match and, got in my head, got in my own way a little bit. And it's hard. Like they said, and I don't know if you guys have been watching that Jordan documentary, but it's hard to repeat, right? It's harder to do it twice. So with all that pressure, of being that guy, you were already placed in state. So being in that blood round, everybody on planet Earth expects you to win that match. And that kid was no slouch. So to get up and make sure you won that match, that takes a lot of guts. So I thought that match was pivotal.
I was on a lot of shots that match. Didn't finish, but
Yeah,
then I remember watching the match and seeing when I got hit for the stall call after his first shot, seeing you freak out was probably hilarious.
I wasn't very. If Coach Debellis remembers, I was pretty angry because you were you probably remember better than both of us, but you were the aggressor that whole entire match, and that kid took one shot. Yeah, and that kid took one shot, and their coach was begging for a stall call, and I wasn't happy about that, especially in that caliber of a match. Like, let him wrestle, So, but that was great, and then to come back, I think after that, fifth, sixth match, was that a close match? There was a triple overtime match or something in there. That may have been the round before the blood round.
Place match.
Okay, yeah, that was a great. I mean, what a way to go out, winning.
Yeah, I got ridden out the entire second period, and then I took him down, got ridden out. So I'm up, and he escapes. So I'm up 2-1 after the second period, and then he escapes. So nothing happens, and then nothing happens in the first OT, and then you tell me to defer, so I defer. He chooses bottom, and then I ride him out the entire 30 seconds, and then I reverse him in the other 30 seconds. So that was pretty big. I didn't really get out in the entire 2 minutes the first time, so I felt like that was a cool moment for me too.
couple things, and I'll let you go, Matt, because we got about probably 4 more minutes we'll do. But just thinking about like to the program, right? Like if we look at the program as a whole, I think it was kind of special that Jacob, you, and Aaron were all the same era, right? Like Jacob's a year older than you guys, but that year, your junior year, we had 3 all-state wrestlers. We were 7th, I believe, in the state, and we weren't traditionally a powerhouse yet. I mean, you guys kind of, younger, older guys like Scotty kind of put us on the map, but you guys really put us on the map when you 3 placed at states. Then, like people around the state knew who we were. I guess the question I'm trying to ask is like, did it make it easier maybe doing it with like-minded people, like people that were bought in just as much as you were?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like going through we since my freshman year, when I started wrestling Empire, we would carpool every single practice, and then once Jacob got his license, he would pick me and Aaron up all the time. So we were always together at every practice. We would room with each other at these tournaments, Pop and Flow or any tournament. So we were always pretty close, and then having like kind of like a competitive race against each other, like who could do the best here at this tournament versus that tournament while we're still working together was pretty cool too, and definitely a lot easier to do it with friends.
That was an interesting dynamic too throughout those years when you had Aaron and you had Jacob and you had Matthew, and they really were at some level competing with each other more so than competing. They're like, wait a second, he just got 33 wins. I remember your freshman year, Matthew. It was like you guys had like 35 wins, you and Aaron.
Yeah, he beat me the last.
It was crazy.
But the bond was still there, which was crazy too.
Was there. They were brothers. They were brothers.
Like we'll talk to Jacob and Aaron as we go too. Obviously, they had great careers as well. Matt being a little lighter than them, there was definitely that competition, but they weren't wrestling in the room. Like Jacob and Aaron had little heat there in the room, but when they were in big matches, you could see those two cheering the other one on to win. They had each other's back. All 3 of them had each other's backs. When push came to shove, which I think is real important. And I didn't want to leave this out because we're only going to do like another minute, but how important, was, support from your family, right? Because your mom and dad.
That was the question I had written down.
Oh, because your dad and mom are great.
The most important question I wanted to ask was that question. How did your parent, what sacrifices did your parents need to make in order for you to excel in this sport?
A lot. I mean, a lot of parents, it's wrestling, so it's kind of like a violent sport. So a lot of the moms might not want their kid to do it, and they might not do what they can do to help their kid succeed. But my mom would drive me to practice whenever I needed. She would help me, even though sometimes I would have to yell at her when I was cutting weight. She would help me cut weight and stuff. My dad wrestled in high school, so he always wanted me to do it. And then he loves it though. Like he follows the sport, college and everything. So it's pretty big, like kind of helpful to have parents that just love the sport almost as much as you do.
Yeah, we've been lucky in that sense, especially with the Schreibers and a couple of the kids that we'll interview, that, they bought in just as much as you guys, and they support us and they support you guys, and it makes it a lot easier when everybody's on the same page. Because I think when push comes to shove, I mean, obviously I'm biased to wrestling, and Coach Debellis and you are biased to wrestling, but I think this sport could do a lot more than just, wins and losses and learn an arm bar and a double leg, right? Like I think, you're going to look back when you're my age, coach's age, when you're 80, it doesn't matter. And look back, I think, at these moments as something that molded you and helped you. I guess you could end it with this, and then I'll stop recording. But do you think, like, can you see how wrestling's going to help you in your future? Like, do you notice things already that are different because of the things you went through, whether it was at Greeley or the club or whatever it may have been,
Yeah, there's some, I remember I forget what year it was, but it was in the summer, and we went through like a crazy hard practice, and you were just pushing me, and then after you said stay after and wrestle, I think it was Tyler Johnson, wrestle him, and I was already so dead. Like we went like 35 minutes alive. I was going with like RJ and Cook and all those people, so it was definitely not fun. But then then you said, all right, we're done. And then you said, Schreiber, hold up, you got another match. And then it's just pretty good because I was able to push back. Even though I didn't win the match, I was able to push back like the wall, I guess, because whenever I went into the deep waters, like at sectionals or at states, not really sectionals, but states and eastern states, I kind of went back to those type of practices and just knew that I could finish the match and push the pace, and then I'll win.
Yeah, well, and you're going to have to push back, as I know, and Coach Debellis knows better than both of us. Just being, the older you get, and Coach Debellis is a young guy, but the older you get, the more you realize, I feel like you're going to have to push that wall back and get in those deep waters in life, right? Like when you have a family and you have a job and you have responsibilities. And I think a high school kid that goes through what you guys went through, that really committed, like you guys committed, you would see very little adults being able to handle the type of work that you guys put in, and it's pretty inspiring. So that's all for me. Coach, you got anything for this guy, or are we good to go?
It was a super pleasure to have you around for all those years. I mean, since you were in second, third grade, coming up all the way through. You guys built this program. This is, we had the honor of being there to watch it happen and help. But you guys, without you guys, they'd be wishing Horace Greeley was at their tournament. Now they don't.
Yeah, it's changed. I mean, I almost feel bad for our guys in a sense, because we're still, now that we're rebuilding, we go to big tournaments like, oh, it's a Greeley kid, watch out. So kids are never taking us lightly because of guys like Matt, Jacob, and Aaron.
Yeah.
So when you're rebuilding, it's kind of unfair for the young guys, but hopefully they catch up to these guys and we can get the same results. But listen, Matt, stick around for a second. I'm just going to stop recording, all right? But good job. You're the man.